Hey guys, I'm Doctor McFarland, and in this video I'm going to show you the essential blocks that I use on a Line 6 preset. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you have been following me for any length of time, then you know I'm a huge headrush fanboy. Also like using other maulers like the Toemaster Pro, the Kemper, the Helix, which is right here in front of me, the Fractal, which I no longer have, and I used to have a Quad Cortex for a little bit, and that's about it. So I've owned a lot of digital maulers, as well as tons of amplifiers and just pedals and different pedal board setups and just all the craziness that can come with owning gear over the years. So what I wanted to do in this video is give you all the sounds that I really naturally am drawn to just by my ears. And that includes a great clean tone with sometimes at the edge of breakup, a nice hard rock lead type sound, which can be pushed with a tube screamer and add on some delay, maybe a little bit of reverb. And that's a great little like 80s Journey, Don't Stop Believin' type soloing type stuff. And then I love having ambient options like a really angelic shimmer reverb, a swell, a reverse delay, a normal just delay type just to give us some overall movement. And I like a tremolo because whenever I play clean, I like adding in just a hint of tremolo just to give even more movement to the parts that I'm currently playing. So I'm not a huge phase or flange guy, but I'm not opposed to using them if the song calls for it. And I very rarely use any kind of chorus effect. So with all that said, these are the essentials that I use on every single mauler, regardless of what it is. I just have tones that I'm naturally drawn to, and no matter how many presets I make, I always end up making the same basic preset anyway. So let's just dive right in. And if you like this preset, you can actually go to my website, drmcfarlandstudios.com, and there is a Helix preset pack that it's just a one-time fee, and you get all the Helix presets that I'll ever make. And there's quite a few in there already. So if you want to help donate to the channel and get something in return, then consider buying my Helix pack. All right, guys, so what we have here is the Helix floor, and I'm using two DSP cores, so the upper line and the lower line, which gives me all the DSP options that I need. There's no way I'd be able to add all these blocks if I didn't have two separate paths to work with. Okay, so the first thing to notice is I have two amplifiers, and they're very easy to access by hitting the amplifier button right here on the Helix. So you can see that I'm toggling back and forth between an Elmsley, which I've really grown to love this amp model. This is added in 3.6 update. And also the Voltage, the Line 6 Voltage. And there's tons of great high gain amps in the Line 6 Helix, but I'm really being drawn to the Line 6 original amps right now. It's really helping me hone in on the sound that's in my head and not really going after a sound just because of the name. Because that can be an issue when you're dealing with digital maulers. You have to have a tube screamer, you have to have a Klon, you have to have a Nobels ODR, you have to have a Mesa Boogie Dual Rec, or you have to have an Orange Rockerverb amp, or a Princeton, or whatever the hot topic names that we are drawn to, just because that's what we're used to seeing in the world. If you just close your eyes and just listen with your ears and worry about the sound and not necessarily what it's called, you'll find that the Line 6 original amps are excellent. Just so good. So let's listen to the Elmsley. So as I have it set right now, it is fairly clean with a slight edge of breakup when I dig into the strings. That doesn't mean that I couldn't go in, crank the drive up, and get this glorious lead sound out of it. But I am kind of reserving that for the voltage amplifier, which is what we have right here. So kicking it over to the bridge pickup. Okay, now notice the next key feature in this lineup is the Cali Q graphic. And essentially this is the Mesa Boogie Mark IV, Mark V, Mark VII, what are all the different Mark amplifiers. It's that graphic EQ that you see on the faceplate of the amp. And what you get is 80 Hertz, 240, 750, 2200, 6600, and a level knob. Is that all? That's all. And so you'll find that by scooping or boosting certain frequencies can really shape the sound of any amp that you have, not only in your Helix, but any digital Mahler or analog pedal board setup or just whatever you have. So when the EQ is after the amplifier, that means it's essentially a post amp EQ, and you're able to shape the sound a lot more versus if the EQ is before the amp and you're really adjusting the input signal EQ versus the output signal EQ, if that makes any sense. So here's the EQ with it off. And with it on. Okay, so I'm scooping out a little bit of that 750 just to cut some mid-range. But what's great about it is if I leave this always on and then I want to have a nice lead boost, I can kick that off via a snapshot and then get this nice mid-range soaring lead sound kind of high up on the neck. And it just sounds really good and gives me a nice contrast between the different sounds. Now the next thing in line, which you'll see here, if I go to the top path, is my Doctor McFarland IR. This happens to be an EB, which means it's a greenback speaker with a 57, 100% up, and then a Royer 121, 50% down. So it's like I'm taking two faders and I'm adjusting the balance of those microphones just by moving the fader like you would in a real studio. So if you're interested in the Doc IR pack, check out sonicdna.com or check the link in the description of this video. And usually Greg has these on sale throughout the year, but if not, it's only 15 bucks and they are well worth it. Now, this is not to say that the stock cabs in the Helix aren't great, because they are. They give you lots of options to move the microphone around, but I just like using my own IRs. It's the sound I'm used to, and it gives me all the variation that I would need. Okay, so going back to the amp here, I'm still on my dirty tone. Right, this is without the EQ. Now if I kick in the tube screamer, this is what we get. So any good tube screamer is going to do a few different things to your tone. It's going to roll off the low end. It's going to push more mids into the front end of the amp. And it's going to boost the volume just slightly, depending on how loud you have that volume knob on the pedal, or in this case, in the block of the Helix. So if I tap the capacitance switches here, which is, guys, if you've never used a Helix before, the capacitance switches is just simply amazing. I mean, it blows away any other Mahler at this point, just with the ease of use of just tapping the switch and all your controls show up right there on the screen. So just, it's the little things, guys. It's the little things. So I have the level on my tube screamer about 7.4. I could crank that all the way up to 10, and here we go. All right, so notice that we don't really get a huge volume jump, but we are pushing all that extra input volume into the front of the amp and just giving us more gain in a tighter low end. So Tube Screamer. You gotta love it. And then the last block on the top path is our simple delay. And we can either have this set to subdivisions or milliseconds. In order to change that, you just push on the button. And now you can turn it to any subdivision that you want, or push it again and turn it to any other millisecond setting that you want. Now, simple delay is just that. It's very simple, and it has a time, feedback, mix, level, and trails. Now, if you're switching snapshots and the trails is not turned on, that means if that block is not engaged in the next snapshot, then all those trails of the delay will actually be cut off. So when you're building your preset, make sure you have the trails turned on, so that way you get the smooth transition of the block being bypassed. So this is what I'm talking about. If the trails are off, we have this. Okay, if I turn the delay back on and turn the trails on, we get this. You gotta have it. All right, so that is all for the top path of this preset. Let's go down to the bottom now. And here is the tremolo. Let's go back to our clean tone. So nothing too crazy. It's just a nice movement of the sound depending on what kind of part I'm playing. I'll like to kick that in, and it always sounds great. Okay. Now, just for the sake of brevity here, I have assigned multiple reverbs to the same switch. So if I kick this in, this is actually going to turn on. What do we have here? We have the reverb shimmer. We have the reverb Ganymede, and also the dynamic plate. Now, I haven't really dialed these in perfectly, just for my personal taste, but they have a great sound so far. This is what we have. Okay, so I could easily lower the mix of the shimmer, raise the mix of the other two reverbs, and just get different balances of that ethereal stuff going on in the shimmer and all the stuff. But that's just a good sound so far. And then when we add in our vintage swell, which gives us the auto volume echo of the DL4, but slightly different parameters. That's why it's called a vintage swell and not the auto volume echo. Which I kind of like this one a little bit better than the auto volume echo of the DL4. And it just gives you a few more parameters, and I feel like it's a smoother result overall, especially because it has a threshold setting. So that basically means that if you pick light, then it's just barely gonna engage that swell. But if you pick hard, okay, you can really tailor the sound of the performance by the way you pluck your strings, whether that's hard or soft or anywhere in between. So that is one advantage with the vintage swell over the auto volume echo, which I normally try to use, but I do like the extra settings on this vintage swell. So there you go. Here's the sound of this one more time. Yeah, that's really nice. And then if I add in my reverse delay, I get a little extra, movement and stuff going on. So all right, so a lot of different options in this preset, but now the fun part is actually creating snapshots to where you don't have to really tap dance. This is stomp mode right now. And if I was just playing and jamming, yes, I could easily toggle back and forth between a clean and a dirty sound just by toggling the amps. Right, then go back to my clean. And that sounds good. And then I could kick in my delay. Okay, so I can keep it as basic as I want, but that's really the whole point of having snapshots, is you can go from one foot switch to another and totally change the bypass state of the blocks, and you can even change parameters by engaging the snapshot mode on different parameters. So for me, I usually engage that setting on the drive and the channel volume of the amps. I'll engage it on the drive on any drive block. Maybe I'll adjust the wet balance of a reverb or a delay within a snapshot. So it's just very easy to use. Now the last thing in the chain is the LA Studio Comp, and this is basically an LA2A in a pedal form, and it gives you the peak reduction, the gain, the type, the emphasis, which controls how much low end you're compressing first versus the high end that you're compressing first when you start playing. So it's a very cool parameter. Then we have a mix, a level, and then that's it. So I just like using it just for a little bit of compression at the end of the chain. So I just like using it a little bit at the end of the chain to knock off some transients and some peaks and just help smooth everything out. And especially with the emphasis all the way down, when I'm on my dirty sound and I'm kind of chunking on the strings, it kind of helps that low end kind of stay nice and tight. If I move the emphasis knob up maybe in the middle or toward the top end of the parameter, then I'm really compressing less low end, which I'm allowing the low end to kind of develop before it gets compressed, and I'm actually compressing more of the high end. All right, so with all that said, this is very much a kitchen sink style preset for me. Now, if I go back to my snapshots here, I can say, okay, I want on snapshot 1 to be my clean, snapshot 2 will be slightly dirty, and then snapshot 3 will be my rhythm sound, maybe on the same amp on the Elmsley, or I might go to the voltage amp and just turn the gain down a little bit. And then I could have snapshot 4 be my actual lead sound with higher gain, the delay on, the tube screamer on, all that stuff. Snapshot 5 is my tremolo. Snapshot 6 is my ambient patch, which is primarily clean. Snapshot 7 is my lead ambient patch, which I can go back to the voltage amp and maybe turn the gain down just a little bit. And then number 8 is my swell patch. So with keeping the snapshots in the same order in pretty much every preset, that allows my mind to really know which one I'm clicking on, especially after you rename everything. And there's 8 sounds that I can literally use for recording, for playing at church, for jamming, just for whatever I want. And then if I want to stay within a certain snapshot and just go back to stomp box mode, I can easily turn on and off different things from there and have an extra layer of flexibility. So this is my Dock Essential preset, and if you want to see more Helix content, then be sure to subscribe to the channel down below and click the bell. And I will be uploading this to the Helix presets pack on my website, and just let me know down in the comments what you think about this preset, and also be looking for a future video where I go through the painstaking process of assigning everything to a snapshot. So Thanks guys for watching. I am Dr. McFarland. I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.